Hey there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, we're going to be talking about a movie that we haven't talked about now for quite a while, but you remember what happened with the Batgirl movie? It had Brendan Fraser as Firefly. We saw the behind the scenes kind of leaked making of the movie itself, and it actually looked pretty fun. It had Michael Keaton's Batman in there, we had Leslie Grace as Batgirl, again Brendan Fraser as Firefly, and it was, sounding like a really great kind of fun film. And then at the last minute, at the 11th hour, they came in, they scrapped the movie because they said they didn't believe the quality was where it needed to be, and they scrapped it to everybody's surprise. And we've all been waiting, to see if this movie ever got leaked. But now it looks like a crew member's come out and said just how finished this movie actually was when they decided to scrap it. So it's very, very interesting information here. So we're going to see what this crew member on the Batgirl production has to say in regards to the completion of the movie and ultimately what happened with it. So this comes to us from Comic Book Movie. So Batgirl movie was literally completely finished prior to being scrapped, according to the crew member. Could you imagine working potentially for years on this movie just for it to be scrapped at the last minute? It would be absolutely heartbreaking for the people involved. But I get it. As an overall kind of CEO of the company of Warner Discovery, you have to make decisions that are hard, that are difficult, that are best for your company. And ultimately, if David Zaslav, who's in charge, felt that this movie was going to hurt the company because of the quality issues and he had to pull the plug, I kind of understand it from that kind of point of view. But, it still doesn't get around the fact that everybody who was involved in putting in blood, sweat and tears into the project, it would ultimately suck really, really bad. But anyway, let's see what this information has to say in regards to the cancellation of the movie. So, Warner Bros. Discovery boss David Zaslav's decision to shelve the HBO Max Batgirl movie when it was already deep into post-production was one of the biggest news stories of 2022. Wow, that story came out in 2022. Time is going way too fast, and was met with a significant amount of backlash from every corner of the industry. The project was scrapped as a tax write-off, with reports doing the rounds at the time that Barbara Gordon's first solo outing simply wasn't very good. So, DC Studios co-CEO Peter Safran would later suggest that Batgirl may have been even more of a mess than we'd been led to believe. So, he says the following, quote, "I saw the movie and there's a lot of incredibly talented people in front and behind the camera on that film, but the film was not releasable." And it happens sometimes. The film was not releasable. I actually think that the president and CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, David Zaslav, and the team made a very bold and courageous decision to cancel it because it would have hurt DC. It would have hurt the people involved. So yeah, that overall decision, it would have ultimately ended up hurting the company of Warner Bros. Discovery, and it could have potentially affected the careers of the actors involved as well. It could have hurt hurt the actors and just had a really bad knock-on effect to not only the people involved, but the Warner Discovery kind of company in general as well. So it's a hard decision, but I understand why it had to be made. Now, almost 3 years later, Art Department Assistant Annie Mitchell is claiming that the movie was a lot closer to completion than we actually realised. So we know the movie was scrapped towards the end of sort of post-production, but we didn't actually know how far they got into the post-production process on this movie before it was scrapped. But now it looks like that information has come to light, and we know just how close to the end of the movie it was when they scrapped it. So, she had to say this. Again, this is Annie Mitchell, an art department assistant who was working on the movie. She says the following: "It's insane that they scrapped it. It was literally completely finished, VFX and everything." She said in response to a TikTok comment, "I definitely believe it still exists though. Really hoping someone leaks it in 10 years. So, it's insane they scrapped it. It was literally completely finished, VFX and everything." So, it sounds like the movie was literally like 99.9999% finished, which is absolutely incredible when you think of all the time, the money, the resources, the capital that they invested into it, just for it to kind of go bye-bye. Yeah, kind of crazy stuff. So while some version of the movie might still exist somewhere in Warner Brothers vaults, the chances of it ever seeing the light of day are pretty slim at this stage, unless it does get leaked. Could you imagine one day we wake up and all of a sudden this movie is just like on YouTube or something? Like, I really cross my fingers. I would love to see this movie at some point. I really, really would. I don't understand why they don't just release this movie, but at the beginning put a caption and say, they could have some sort of notification at the beginning and say, this movie is, unfinished. We don't believe it meets the quality standards, but due to fan anticipation, we decided to put it out anyway. Some sort of like notification at the beginning that lets people understand the story. Of why this movie was kind of cancelled, but they can still put it out, if that makes sense. but ultimately, you know, they don't want to do something like that by the sound of it. So other projects have suffered the same fate since, including Scoob Holiday Haunt and Coyote vs. Acme. That was a huge one. That had John Cena in it as well, I believe. And, you know, a lot of people were really, really disappointed. There was campaigns on social media about Coyote vs. Acme. And though the studio is allowing filmmakers to shop it to other distributors, but Zaslav is adamant that these practices simply come down to a strategic decision and were required to improve the media conglomerate's financial health. So David Zaslav said, what content is going to help us win? The content that wasn't, we made a strategic decision on. It was difficult and it was painful, but I think it was the right decision for the company and it was necessary. The question is, should we take certain of these movies and open them in the theatre and spend another 30 to 40 million to promote them? When I look at the health of our company today, we needed to make those decisions and it took real courage. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. So, you know, an assistant art department assistant has basically informed us that this movie was practically finished when they scrapped it. And it just adds to the kind of disappointment of not only the fan base, of all the people that were involved in kind of the creation of this movie. But I always find this story fascinating to talk about. That's kind of why I decided to make a video on this, guys. So jump down in the comment section and let me know what you think about this movie basically being completed when it was scrapped. What do you think about that, guys? And what do you think about the art assistant's comments there about the movie being finished when it was scrapped? And also, do you think this movie would get leaked in the future? And if it did, would you be interested in watching it? I definitely would. Michael Keaton Batman, Brendan Fraser Firefly, Leslie Grace as Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. I mean, sounds good to me. But let's hope that this movie does see the light of day at some point. Not just for the fans, but for the people involved in making it. Guys, thank you so much for being here and, you know, chilling out and talking about this news. Make sure you hit the like button before you leave. Become a subscriber of the content if you haven't already. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, so I'd really appreciate that. And as always, I will see you in the next video.